Hello, welcome to Module 5. Alright, do you remember that we have already discussed a lot about materials development, as well as the way to select, adapt materials for teaching in the previous lectures. Now, in this lecture, we'll mention the way for you to design your own teaching materials. In this lecture, there are four main parts that we're going to focus on, namely, the advantages and disadvantages of designing materials, the factors to consider when designing materials, the principles in designing materials, and lastly, the guidelines for designing effective English teaching materials. Now, we start with the first mini-lecture of Module 5, the advantages and disadvantages of designing materials for English teaching, as well as the factors to consider when designing materials. Well, we'll talk about the advantages first. According to Block, one of the most important advantages of teacher-produced materials is contextualization. A key criticism of commercial materials is that they are not aimed at any specific groups of learners or any particular cultural or educational context. The possible lack of fit between teaching context and coursebook has been expressed. So, for many teachers, designing their own materials enables them to take into account their particular learning environment and to overcome the lack of fit of the coursebook. Another aspect of context is the resources available. Some teaching contexts will be rich in resources such as coursebooks, supplementary texts, readers, computers, audio-visual equipment, and consumables such as paper, pens, and so on. However, other contexts may be extremely impoverished, with little more than an old blackboard and a few pieces of chalk. A lack of commercial materials forces teachers to fall back on their own resources, and designing their own teaching materials can enable them to make best use of the resources available in their teaching context. Moreover, a further aspect that is not often mentioned in the literature is the cost of commercially produced resource. For many schools, teacher-produced materials can be the best option in terms of both school and student budget. The second advantage is individual needs. Modern teaching methodology increasingly emphasizes the importance of identifying and teaching to the individual needs of learners. English language classrooms are diverse places not only in terms of where they are situated, but also in terms of the individual learners within each context. That's the reason why teacher-designed materials can be responsive to the heterogeneity inherent in the classroom. Obviously, few coursebooks deliberately incorporate opportunities for learners to build on the first language skills already acquired. A teacher can develop materials that incorporate elements of learners' first language and culture, or at least provide opportunities for acknowledgement and use alongside English. In addition, teacher-prepared materials provide the opportunity to select texts and activities at exactly the right level for particular learners to ensure appropriate challenge and levels of success. Well, in designing their own materials, teachers can also make decisions about the most appropriate organizing principle, or focus on the materials and activities. And this can be changed over the course of the program if necessary. Moreover, most course books remain organized around grammar elements and the PPP, presentation, practice, and production model of teaching. And by taking more control over materials production, teachers can choose from the range of possibilities, including topics, situations, notions, functions, skills, etc., or a combination of these principles as starting points to develop a variety of materials that focus on the developing needs of the particular group of learners. The advantage number 3 is personalization. Actually, teacher-designed materials add personal touch to teaching that students appreciate. They also help to gain students' interest in class because materials are prepared according to their learning styles. The next one is time limits. Alright, materials can respond to local and international events with up-to-date, relevant, and high-interest topics and tasks. To sum up, teacher-designed materials avoid a one-size-fits-all approach of most commercial materials. So now, let's discuss the disadvantages of designing materials. The very first one is organization. Clearly, course books are usually organized around an identifiable principle and follow a discernible pattern throughout. While this can be rather dull and boring, it does provide both teachers and students with some security and a coherent body of work to remember and revise from. In contrast, teacher-designed materials may lack overall coherence and a clear progression. Without some overall organizing principle, materials may be a piecemeal and can result in poorly focused activities, lacking clear direction. This is frustrating and confusing for learners who may not be able to see how their English is developing. A further aspect of organization relates to the physical organization and storage of materials. Without a clearly thought through and well-organized system, teacher-produced materials may be difficult to locate or ongoing use, or may end up damaged or with parts missing. The other disadvantage is quality. According to Block, at the surface level, teacher-made materials may seem ragged and unprofessional next to those produced by professionals. They may contain errors, be poorly constructed, lack clarity in layout and print, and lack durability. In addition, a lack of experience and understanding on the part of the teacher may result in important elements being left out or inadequately covered. The teacher-made materials may be produced to take advantage of authentic text. However, if not guided by a clear criteria and some experience, teachers may make inconsistent or poor choices of text. A further problem may be a lack of clear instructions about how to make effective use of materials, particularly instructions designed for students. The next disadvantage is time. It's the key factor inhibiting many teachers from producing their own teaching materials. Undoubtedly, not every teacher is always able to produce effective material, at least not all the time. Now, let's move to the factors to consider when designing materials. The first factor is learners. It's the first and most important factor. Any consideration of syllabus or material design must begin with a need analysis. Aspects of learners to be taken into consideration include the learning needs with regard to English language skills and listening, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary knowledge, and grammar. The individual student's learning preferences as well. What's more, the student's experiences in life or educational experience. The student's first language and levels of literacy in it. The student's interest in learning English, and the student's purposes for learning English. The second factor is the curriculum and the context. In terms of the curriculum, many teachers are bound by a mandated curriculum, defining the content, skills, and values to be taught. Whatever the curriculum, it is the teacher's responsibility to ensure that the goals and objectives of the overreaching curriculum are kept close at hand when designing materials, according to Noonan. Regarding the context in which the teaching and learning occurs has impacts on the types of materials that may need designing. For example, a primary level mainstream English-speaking setting with a set curriculum and access to native speakers may require materials that facilitate interaction about subject content and develop cognitive academic language proficiency. Next, the resources and facilities. Access to resources such as computers, with or without internet access, a video player and TV, projector influences teachers' decisions in material design. Teachers must be realistic about what they can achieve in terms of material design and production within the limitation of available resources and facilities. The factor number 4 is personal confidence and competence. Undoubtedly, These are the factors that determine an individual teacher's willingness to embark on materials development. They are influenced by the teacher's level of teaching experience and his or her perceived creativity or artistic skills and overall understanding of the principles of materials design and production. As a result, most teachers undertake material design to modify, adapt, or supplement a course book rather than starting from scratch. According to Hammer, decisions available to teachers include the following. First, add activities to those already suggested. Next, leave out the activities that do not meet your learners' needs. Teachers also can replace or adapt activities or materials with supplementary materials from other commercial texts. The authentic materials as well, such as newspapers, radio reports, films, are essential. Or the teacher created supplementary materials. They also can choose to change the organizational structure of the activities. For example, pairs, small groups, or the whole class. Factor number 5 is copyright compliance. The teachers need to be aware of the restrictions that copyright laws place on the copying of authentic materials, published materials, and materials downloaded from the internet for use in the classroom. The copyright law has its implications when creating materials that include excerpts from published works. What's more, the time. The time was discussed earlier as the disadvantage for teachers who wish to design their own materials. So, the teachers can share materials with other teachers, work in a team to take turns to design and produce materials, or to organize the central storage. So, that's the end of the first mini lecture of Module 5. See you later in the next lecture. Goodbye.